Super excited. We're going to get started here in a minute. We got Jake, Sway, the CEO of Sway Metrics, talking about Blue Ocean. I'm very excited to get this started. Whenever, Jake, you are ready, sir. No pressure. Ross, why don't we talk about some other stuff that we're working on?
Take it away. I'll add.
Okay. While Jake's getting set up, I think the most interesting conversation I'm having right now, or internally, I'm not really having it externally, and I'd like to share with everybody here, is this framework, this onboarding framework that we're looking at really building into our product. It's called the Bowling Alley framework. It's by this guy named Wes Bush, who's part of the Product-Led Institute. And it's a really interesting way. So welcome to Masters of Marketing. We go over traction channels. We go over how to CRO, how to intensify your onboarding experience, everything within the R framework, acquisition, activation, retention, revenue, and figuring out how in marketing and growth, how you can grow your business. So this one in particular is about retention. No, it's not about retention. Well, a little bit about retention, but mostly activation, what I like to call the onboarding experience. And the metaphor that he uses and to describe this way to think about having your customer is that it's a bowling alley. And if you're bowling a ball down a 60-foot lane, and if you strike 10 pins, you have a customer signed up, activated, perfectly happy. But this golden path, he goes on to describe, is extremely rare because they have to have enough information about the product. They have to be educated about the need of the product. They have to have all the perfect scenarios. They have to have the desire, the need, the education about the product. And if they fall off the path, they're not going to become a customer, and you're going to have churn, and you're going to have a leaky bucket. So what has come recently into the scenario is this idea of the bowling alley framework as how can you build items into your product, and how can you add tools like intercom and drift or conversational tools or follow-up emails or communications to add bumper lanes to the side of the flow of your onboarding experience. So here's some great examples here: product tours, product bars, badges, things like of that nature. Gamification on the product side you can do to help the desired outcome of getting somebody up to a certain level of profile, so they have that really good aha moment. They have that really great experience onboarding their product. An example of this was Chamath Palihapitiya, who is the founder and general partner at Social Capital, who was also the head of growth early on at Facebook. He had found out there was one silver bullet metric with Facebook early on, and that was, can he get 7 friends to join, right? So if I can get a user on board and I can get them to connect to 7 people within 48 hours, then I'm likely to have a user for life. And so their whole entire growth team and growth marketing was, how do we add conversational bumpers and how do we add products? And you can see that today in LinkedIn and Facebook and TikTok and Instagram. They're always recommending you to add new people, add new likes, because they understand that to have friends in a network or people that you can interact with, it'll expand the network. And that's just an example of how you can define the product. And through, I mean, if I go to LinkedIn right now, see which LinkedIn profile I got open. Actually, we're not going to do that right now. But let's see if we go to Facebook. Cool. It shows me stories. It's going to show me like as I go to search things, it's going to show me different people that they recommend that I interact with. Let me see if I can open up this other linked one. And so I think it's a very interesting concept as we're redefining our product. What intercom messages, what onboarding emails are we going to send to really activate and educate our customers and what things are we going to build into the product. And that's a lot of the conversations that we have going on at Alpha Voice right now.
To add to that, I think one of the most interesting things you can do is try to add Gmail to your product, because as you're trying to get someone down this bowling lane alley, if they drop off, you never hear from them again. But when you're adding Gmail to your product, you have to make them a video showing every single step they take until they add their Gmail account. And they will email you back every single time something doesn't work or they don't understand it until they get through that entire path.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah, we've had about 14 back and forths. And it's really interesting every time they run up against something that we're like, oh, we thought that was obvious for the users. If Google doesn't know how to do it, they won't know how to do it. Let's switch the UX up to make it easier to get through this golden path.
Yeah, they're helping QA our product, because the people that are like testing the product and QAing in the product, I imagine are not, the highest paid workers. So there might be like at Google. And so the people that are going through the testing and are testing our onboarding experience with the Google activations, with the tools, they have to get like really deep into the product for some of the features that we've activated in the permission scope of Google. And so they're getting like deep into our product and like, okay, how do I go and test this permission class that you've added? And so it's probably like, you have to send an email, you have to create a list, you have to do like probably like 10 steps. And that's informing us too, that it's probably too complicated and that we need to like smooth it out and ease it out, and make it easier.
Yeah, and we are. Sometimes when they try to find a button and it's 10 steps in, you realize that you can put the button on the first page. It gives you a great reason to go look at your competitors as well and be like, well, the competitor got Google to give them permission. So what did they do differently?
Yeah, how'd they get there so quick? All right, Jake, what do you think?
Yeah, on this, yeah, I completely agree. It's like Daniel Miller, you guys had that guy on last week, was it?
Yeah.
Yes. His whole thing was drip campaigns, right? How do you create that right level of engagement as well as bumpers into kind of leading the user down the happy like product path, right? So you have to be very careful because, right, you have to imagine every user is going in with no knowledge about anything, right? And every product owner, every marketer is so biased to their own product that they need to realize that these bumpers exist and how they build them and lead them down.
Cool.
You ready
to take it over, Jake?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it.
I guess I can share my screen.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Cool. I made a fun little presentation for you guys.
Nice.
All right.
Sweet. And so this will kind of be also like an engaging one as well. So anyone feel free to stop me and kind of, have questions. There'll be a little like interactive parts to it. So don't be afraid to add in the chat when we kind of get to those slides. So first, this is so the Blue Ocean strategy. Are you guys pretty familiar? I know we kind of talked about it a little bit.
No, we should start from the beginning. Right.
Yeah. The great thing about webinars and interviewing people is you get to say, I'm an expert. But for everyone in the audience, let's start with the very basic.
So how this term came to be really is how are all these companies, these new companies coming out of nowhere and like dominating in like an industry, right? So all these experts came together, came up with this kind of funny name of Blue Ocean strategy. And so when you look at a blue ocean and wide out, right? You look at it as this vast ocean. No one's around. You kind of have this whole almost market they view it as. So imagine an ocean is a market. And with blue oceans, competition is irrelevant. There's no one here. All customers are open to use your product. They're not, you're not competing. You're not doing anything. So it's really like the ideal space you want to be if you're a startup, or, if you want to take a different marketing approach to some of your products. And so the opposite of a blue ocean is a red ocean, right? So what a red ocean means is, people are fighting, there's competitive, you're trying to be a little bit better than this person. Consumers and customers are looking at you and competitors and maybe looking at like, well, they're a little bit cheaper. They may have this one feature, but it's really hard to stand out as a startup and as a product to kind of take on a ton of customers, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. So, and kind of diving down deeper into it, right? Like red ocean versus blue ocean. Blue ocean is where you want to be. And I think a lot of people have this problem that they like, well, I'm in a competitive space. I can't create a blue ocean. I can't do this. And really you can. You have to kind of change your mindset and start thinking like that. And so just reviewing what I was talking about, red oceans versus blue oceans, you're competing in existing market space. And I'm imagining a lot of people are working at startups, right? You're going against the industry titans, right? You can't compete with more integrations, better data analysis, all better technology, right? Maybe you can, but it's really tough to do that. It's really hard. And so with the blue ocean strategy, no matter what industry you're in, you can lead your company in that direction and create and go into new markets, or at least approach your customers in kind of a new type of market, right? So, and we'll kind of dive deep into what that actually means, right? Like some people may be thinking, well, am I creating a new technology? Am I, doing something 10x better, right? And that can be part of it, but that's not really it. So this is so everyone on the same page with that?
Yeah. So then does that mean if you're not creating a new technology, you're taking existing technology and just selling it to people who might have been ignored before? Is that what you mean by saying going into a new market?
Not exactly, but you're kind of getting there. We'll kind of dive deeper into that. So with this next slide, does anyone know what this is?
Ooh, flux capacitor.
Correct. Exactly. Right. So this is a completely new technology that essentially, created time travel and one of the best probably series of all time, Back to the Future. And that's really they've created a completely different market with new technology. But that's not necessary for most every company out there right now. You do not need some crazy flux capacitor to go into a new market and create a blue ocean. And the perfect example that I'd like to start with is Cirque du Soleil. Who here is a fan? Yeah, have you guys been a lot?
Yeah.
Never been.
Never been? Ross, you got to go. I've never been either, actually.
I've been.
It's
Jody, you
amazing.
been?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Like,
Awesome.
I think they're going to always die all the time, and they don't.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I've never been. I really want to go. But I think they're the prime example of creating blue oceans. One of the best I've seen. And so really, they have a really interesting story. So they came at a time when the circus industry was going down. People, were getting aware of all the animal abuse that was going on. So they're like, I don't support the elephants being captured, all this stuff. And then also, people, were less willing to go to these overall just circus events. And so Cirque du Soleil said, we need to kind of shift our strategy, shift our values, and shift on certain things that maybe more value to people. Maybe we can cut some stuff out and really refocus our efforts on where we're going to provide a different kind of value on a 10x level. So I believe this is the right. So this is an example of how they pushed their market boundary levels into new markets, right? And the best way to do that is actually, if you have a company right now, look at the values, look at what you're offering, and see how you can differentiate. And essentially, through your different values, you can create a new market, right? So kind of going through this a little bit, just to kind of deep dive into what I mean by different value curves and focusing and taking away different resources. So first, they kind of came to this industry. They're like, all right, well, we're not going to just do what Ringling Brothers did, right? They had 3 rings, let's not go through that way. Let's create a new experience. So they brought in a theatrical aspect to it. And if you look at it like price, theaters are really expensive. So if they brought in a theatrical aspect and storytelling kind of aspect, engaging aspect to it, and their price is still more expensive than most circus tickets, they're still cheaper than theater experiences, right? So that's one value curve. Another thing they saw was star performers, right? The Ringling Brothers were paying these high performing artists, all these famous people, and paying them a lot of money, but not really getting that good return on investment. So they said, well, let's just get rid of those guys. That's just a huge expense, a huge thing that's getting in our way, and not really seeing that return. And they also, like I said, got rid of the 3 rings, created one just stage for you to look at. And then fun and humor, thrills, kind of kept all that in there. Brian, you said they were pretty dangerous, pretty fun. You always think they're going to fall.
Yeah, they're like, it's crazy. Like they'll be like 3 stories up with like a bunch of people, and literally it's like 1 person, 2 person, 3 person, 4 person, and they're doing a handstand on top of other hands, 4 people high, standing on top of each other.
Yeah,
it's wild. Like any moment, and then they start to like jump and act out like as if they're gonna fall sometimes. They're like, and the crowd goes like, oh, and it's really exciting.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, so just talking about value curves, they still kept like a lot of the value that circus still provided with those thrills and stuff, but then focused on more on unique venues. That's kind of part of it. I didn't think it was as important, but artistry and multiple productions and premium seating. So they've gone from the straight circus industry competing with like, oh, we'll have better performers, better acts, put more into it. It was like, no, let's get rid of that. Let's combine the theater market with the circus market to create a new experience, right? And they went down that. So talking about our different value curves, right, and our different strategies, you have to start thinking in the sense of, where can I focus on making improvements, and where can I get rid of waste, right? And so, like we talked about earlier, eliminate the factors that people just take for granted, that don't really use, that aren't that useful. Maybe it's like expected, but you have to really look at everything you do and see like, is this really going to create value for the customer in the long run? And then also where people aren't focusing, push more value towards. Does that make sense? Do you guys have questions about that?
Yeah. What are some examples of value curves in your own business and doing this?
Yeah, sure. So Sway Metrics, we help marketers showcase their ROI. We kind of had an interesting business model with this. First, we were kind of this analytics tool, bringing all your data together, making it super fast, super easy. But we're competing with giants who, already have all these integrations, already have this complex AI stuff. Like, hey, we'll optimize everything. And so we're thinking like, all right, well, we can do that. We can keep competing. People will still want our product. But how can we really penetrate a new market and penetrate new strategies to grow Sway Metrics as a brand? So I started thinking, going back and forth, and really something that people in the marketing and data sharing field don't do is focus on aesthetics, focus on visuals, and focusing on the communication from marketer to non-marketer, right? So essentially we're going into a new blue ocean by combining visuals, aesthetics of something like Canva, PowerPoint, with data APIs from something that you see, I guess, ad hoc, you guys talk about them, and bringing that together to make it 10 times more visually appealing, 10 times easier to share, and 10 times easier to communicate with clients if you're an agency, or the rest of your team if you're a CMO.
Gotcha. So on the data curve, or on the value curve, like their aesthetics are at 0, yours are way up. Their analytics are kind of par with your analytics, and they have more integrations and stuff, but you're eliminating the integrations because maybe those aren't very necessary.
Yeah.
You're keeping the analytics, which are very necessary, and you're adding on with the visualization, which no one has really tackled before.
Visualization, live sharing URLs, updated URLs, commenting on reports and messaging. Then also transparency within the market is something that we're going. People are really, and so when you look at value curves, also look at your customers as a way. Because in the, look at how your customers interact and kind of like the demographic, and see if you can kind of move into new demographics as well. That's kind of the blue ocean strategy. It kind of makes sense because it's a new market. But we're really focused on like growth hackers sharing and verifying their metrics, right? Because there's a lot of fake gurus out there. There's a lot of fake people trying to sell courses. And one way that you could be legit is, use our live URL sharing synced with your Facebook, synced with your Stripe account, and post it. And that would be one way to kind of verify that this is real. And so that's kind of, go ahead.
That's another value that you hadn't actually mentioned before. So you have aesthetics, but you also have live verification. How did you, in taking those values as being more significant, actually test that people cared about those things?
We're still testing them, but people, like everyone I talk to is just like, whoa, like I'm like totally behind you. Before it was like, yeah, this is like 7 out of 10 usefulness. But now it's like, man, this is really exciting. This is like really cool. Like I want to, and so it's like those people who are kind of like becoming more fans now than just like, hey, I'd use this as a tool. It's now like we're developing our fan base.
And that's your blue ocean audience.
Yeah. And that's more of like, yeah, exactly. So, we're going to still, like, we even imagine as a freemium model. But that's kind of something that's been interesting lately, that we're, connecting with this new audience like none before. Transparency, openness, mass sharing. And usually, like, for the past however many years, data people were like, want to hoard their data, wanted to analyze it, didn't want to do anything. Mm-hmm. And so this hypothesis for testing is something that we're moving into. Yeah. Nice. And Ross, I love those questions, because so many people and like MBA guys talk about like, oh, this book said this. And it's like, how do you apply this in real life? And it makes me so mad. Like I just finished.
There's a whole 4-hour work week, which is like.
Yeah. Good.
I was just gonna say there's a whole 4-hour work week chapter, which is learn stuff you're going to immediately apply. Because everybody reads the encyclopedia, and then by the time they need to know something from it, it's 12 years later and they've forgotten it. So what was the point of reading it in the first place?
Who read the encyclopedia?
I read one volume just to say that I'd done it. There's a guy who's read the entire encyclopedia. He wrote a book about it.
What, dude? That's
only 26 volumes. I mean, come on.
One per day.
Okay.
Yeah, so we got this, you have this like up here, like the new value curve, create, raise, reduce, eliminate. It seems like a lot of optimization of something that already exists, while create is only like one of the 4 legs. What are your thoughts about that? Yeah,
so really, like in my ideology on startups, I think Peter Thiel's 0 to 1 is kind of complete. Like, this is just my opinion, is not a great book. Everything is built on top of everything else, right? Like Facebook and MySpace is a social network, right? Why did Facebook win, right? They're like, you could still do like messaging. I can't remember MySpace, but Facebook, they had the news feed. They kind of had this whole different experience with like tagging people, spying on real people. They increased it, like value of real people equals yes on Facebook, like even higher. And then also news feed, where you can kind of keep constant engagement and bringing more realness to what a social network should see. Friendster could have been successful, to be honest, but their servers and their stack sucked. And if they really would have optimized, Friendster could actually probably replace Facebook.
I think the same thing with MySpace too. It became so slow that it was painful to use. And Facebook was simple and fast.
Yep. And then also MySpace, like they had all these useless, like you could change your CSS of your page. Like that's cool only for like a very niche, like that's so useless value add. It was like a bug actually, I read about it. And they just like let users keep using it. But like stuff like that is just like, it's not great, right?
Okay. So you're saying anti-Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel is like 0 to 1. You got to create in a new space. What you're saying is you don't really have to create if you can optimize and reframe the conversation.
Exactly. There's no such thing as a completely new technology, right? In Peter Thiel's example, PayPal, we were still doing wire transfers. We were still doing like, sending checks, right? It's just like almost like a notification and a ledger system built with our current monetary system, right? Yeah. And so like, I mean, Peter Thiel is probably a really, really, really smart guy. But like, that's just something I just disagree with. Like, and I'm going to stand by that. And if I talk to him and meet him in real life, like, hey, like, I'd like to hear your opinion on that.
Okay. So don't try to create something new from the ground up.
So why I say that, it's too mind-boggling to create something new, right? It's like, I need to create something revolutionary that's never been done before. And then your mind is stuck on some new technology that like you can't even comprehend to kind of start creating, right? Like,
so,
and I think,
so I agree with this. I think what you're saying, are you saying that if you create something new, the education and the marketing to get people to understand it is too high?
I don't want to discourage innovation because I think, but I think everything is relatable to something, right? So if you create like, I don't know, Brian, make like, I don't know, a book that you like is
new
like
pogo stick.
Yeah, or you tap a book and you read it. It's like, oh, that's dope,
Right.
But it's still like you're still ingesting data from a book. You're just doing it like almost in like a new market for the really lazy people that don't want to read, and don't enjoy it. Yeah, me too. I still like don't enjoy reading that much. Some of it I like. I just finished a good book I like, The Richest Man in Babylon. Actually, kind of cool.
I've read that. That's a good book.
Okay, so the net is creating something from scratch, completely never been done before, not really likely to succeed because all of the context, all of our experiences are trying to use metaphors and relate to other experiences that we had before. And if it's something brand new that's never been kind of put into existence, then it's overly complicated.
I would say shift like everything that you create. I think any person that creates something new, is going to relate to something, right? So you're kind of thinking of the ideation process. I'm thinking like, say you're in a crowded market, this is very helpful for you, right? So you're kind of like, if you guys already have a product, right? Or like you're trying to create something completely new, which is kind of good, but even if you create something that you think is completely new, it can be relatable. And so you have to look at your overall value curve and see like, all right, well, maybe towards this new thing, we increase it to, I think it'd be helpful if we go through the next few examples.
Yeah, let's do it.
Could run through it. And then you guys could see like why they were so successful. But cool. So one of my favorite drinks ever. Anyone here a White Claw fan? No.
I get it though. I get
it's
it.
very San Francisco.
Yeah.
It's
so
very,
I was gonna. Yeah.
It's very part of the basic white girl ETF fund.
Yeah. I like that. That's funny. So yeah. So like, now that you guys see what we're talking about, what do you think the value curves are of this actual product? Like, where do you think they've increased certain value and decreased certain value?
I think they decreased like the painfulness of drinking a can of alcohol.
What are you differentiating them from? Like on this value curve?
So these are value curves, right? So I'll kind of start just to say like they maxed out, I'd say, healthiness, right, of drinking alcohol in a can, like fast, easy way, right? Besides drinking pure liquor.
I think the price went up for like a normal drink with its content.
Right. So price per beer, but price per liquor drink is still cheaper.
Oh, okay.
So they kind of view this as like the max healthiest alcohol you can drink, versus like actually drinking liquor, right? So it's like the same health level as liquor, but they kind of like, we need something canned and refreshing, right? So I'd say that this went up, right? Also their target demographic, right? So for the past 20 years, all these, spritzers and Zimas and everything were always targeted towards like women and kind of like, besides Mike's Hard. Actually, fun fact, Mike's Hard lemonade is the same guy that did White Claw. I don't know if I told you guys that.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so they actually shifted their branding and marketing towards a different demographic, right? And so they were doing a hypothesis that frat boys, surfers, everyone else would be cool to drinking, flavored water alcohol.
Okay, so they shifted their demographic. Is it because of the branding, or do you think like what else did they do? Is it just a pure branding play that when they put the wave on there?
It was kind of through a lot, right? It was like, we can talk about flavor too. So flavor profile and simplicity, right? Some flavor profile went down, right? Like there's not that much difference between like a different flavor. So that really helped with kind of the shift in demographic.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Like, I think it's like easier to drink.
Yep. It's like flavor profile went down, easier to drink.
So you can like consume more and like you feel like you're consuming like water.
Exactly. Like drinkability. It still had the drinkability of other like kind of I'd say Zimas, but like or spritzers or what do you like? The Smirnoff ices, right?
Yeah.
But
they're also dated too, right? Like Smirnoff Ice, Zima, like I mean, I was drinking those in the late 90s.
mm-hmm.
Like those were cool when they came out in the late 90s. Like they're not cool anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing they saw is like we're super, super health aware now, right?
Yeah.
And so they focus on that as well. So healthiest alcohol drink, no sugar, no carbs. Didn't target women with their branding, right? They're like, all right, we're not going to focus only. I guess that's kind of hard to display on a value curve, right?
What about the whole LaCroix factor? Like people are drinking less sugary soda drinks. Like 20 years ago, like drinking Coca-Cola was fine. And because Diet Coke and Diet Pepsi tasted terrible. And then so people are now used to drinking bubbly drinks without sugar.
Yep.
But what about the same LaCroix factor where LaCroix used to be really cool and then it was bubble, and it seems like the favorite bubble water changes so quickly in San Francisco that White Claw might be surpassed quickly as well.
Yeah, that's true. I'm on Waterloo right now. Got to get that Waterloo.
That's a great point you harped on for blue oceans, right? Whenever you create a blue ocean, others are going to quickly follow. So if you guys kept up with PBR did its limited release. Who else did a limited? Natty Light did a limited I wanted to try all of them, but like there's none like the first one in this blue ocean, right? And like essentially they've created a blue ocean. I strongly agree that they've created a blue ocean. That's why they're so successful. And the point I wanted to focus on is this is the same exact technology we've had for this past 60 years or however how many years, right? And so, yeah, does that make sense? Do you guys have any other questions or comments?
So what you're saying is their tastes have changed. Like the zeitgeist, the main demographic of people that are doing drinking age drinkers, now they want less sugar, they want less bad chemicals in their drinks, and so I think what you're saying is that because there was a gap because the market grew in that space, but there wasn't an alcoholic beverage that actually was there to fill that space because everything had like a lot of sugar or unnatural chemicals in it. White Claw was able to not only feed that market and feed that demand, but also have a branding that was more consumable by different demographics to make it cool to drink this beverage.
Exactly. That's exactly it. Yep.
That's cool.
Yep. Blue ocean right there. And then moving on, that was a really good point, Brian. You like hit the nail on the head. So you can see that they were kind of almost like they created this new category, right? It's like healthy alcohol, sparkly, tasty, subtle drinking water.
But to your point, they didn't create a new category. The category existed because everything that was going on in society of like, hey, I don't want as much sugar. I want to kind of be healthier, et cetera, et cetera. And they're just filling the demand.
Yeah. It was almost like, exactly. So it's like blue oceans aren't completely revolutionary. They're just like, they push the alcohol market lines, right? The alcohol market boundaries. And that's what they did. So that's like a good way to think about it, is you push the boundaries so much of a red ocean that you kind of fulfill this new thing called a blue ocean. So that's kind of like a great way to think about it. Like it's not, and that's why I think nothing is completely like, has nothing to do with it unless you have like, I don't know, but even black hole energy, right? It's still related to energy and how we use energy. And so you can always relate everything.
Yeah, totally. Let's find out about Slack. I'm interested. We just talked a lot about Slack yesterday. Was that yesterday or the day before?
That was yesterday. They all go into.
Cool. So Slack, what do you think the value curves are?
Price. They have a free model and they never upsell you unless you actually want it.
Exactly. So something part of blue ocean is price always needs to be kind of low to the value you're getting, right? So their price is incredible. And harping on price, I think, so that went down. Also, all right, so that's a good point, Ross.
There wasn't, I mean, there was a like HipChat, right? Was around. I used to use HipChat before Slack. But HipChat, it was slower. So their speed kind of went up. Slack it was a more fluid experience. Everything about it had like a nice like ringtone to it. I don't know. It just felt lighter and faster. Kind of like your MySpace, Facebook example.
Yeah.
I used HipChat a lot. I used that for like 2-3 years before Slack.
Yeah. And I think a lot of things like this is just talking about technologies, that your UI and your UX and your usability has to go up. Like that's just something that like to kind of help with your blue ocean, you need that. But cool. Yeah.
Should we talk about kind of what it's compared to? Like Slack's making this new area, but what's the goal that people are trying to solve already? What are they kind of solving that's on the periphery? I think that when you ask what the value curves are, it's important to kind of have those in mind so you can kind of see what area you should be looking in for improvement.
Yeah, I think you have to kind of, for each company, it's different. It's not specific towards one company. Price is specific towards every company. But I think to answer your question, Ross, we're breaking that down. Like what is the value, or what value point we're talking about? Does that make sense?
So you're trying to understand what this company is so that you can then later on decide kind of what their previous competitors were or who was on the periphery.
Yeah. So like Slack. Okay. Run.
Yeah. So I used Hangouts a lot before that. And one of the complaints was we'd do a Hangout. We would send some links, and it was hard to get a lot of people into the same topic. Right. And so you'd create these Hangouts and they would go on for a while, but kind of then the history would disappear. Also email chains were a BATNA. And email is slow. It's not synchronous. Like it's kind of like an async methodology. So if I want like, you want to have like, before you'd like send an email back and forth, okay, let's hop on a call. But then we're like not being able to share documents quickly. We're not being able to share links quickly. I have to kind of stop working on the computer, hop on a call, and then talk about things that are on the computer versus talking about things on the computer that are right there on the computer with like links that are relative. So the context switching from communication of email to phone, I think was a mental overhead cost, right? That people didn't necessarily calculate because they didn't really know any difference.
Exactly.
Also, all the previous forms of communication had spam and stuff like that in them. Like
Yeah, that's
email,
true.
you can have tons of spam and it's a mental overhead to just delete it or get rid of it. But Slack, like if you're part of a large group, there might be some bots, but if someone in your company is a bot and they're spamming you, you fire them. So streamlines that.
Exactly.
You're fired, spam bot.
So something they did, like Brian, you kind of hit the nail on the head. One, like when that, so I just did a quick search on a post with what Stuart Butterfield focused on for like improving the most out of. He did searchability, so you could easily find messages, easily find attachments. Like searchability was one of their core focuses. Attaching and sharing files is one of their core focuses, and I forgot the other one. But that's like, because of that went way up. That's what they focus on, but that's also part of their blue ocean strategy.
I think the last one was just the simplest usability whatsoever. Like the fact that they really don't have an onboarding experience because you can only do a few things. If you want to do more, you can learn it. But at the beginning, it's so simple that it's easy to use.
Exactly. So something, Ross, that you hit on. So easiest onboarding. And so what that also is a part of, you can create a Slack group in like the shortest amount of time and create it with no card, no nothing. And so they made the onboard to become a user like 10 times better than anyone else, even if you're creating like a whatever Slack group. So they focused on that, like, hey, like, well, you know, because I don't know how HipChat was, but I bet setting it up wasn't the simplest thing, right? Maybe you had to have an Atlassian account, you had to do all this other stuff. But if you want to create a Slack, what's up?
When Atlassian bought it, it just like got trashed. Like I think that was one of the things too. It's like, it was a small company, it was light and lightweight, and then as soon as Atlassian bought it, it was just like this cumbersome, onerous kind of experience now that was like embedded with all this other junk. Like it wasn't simple anymore.
Exactly.
Just adding to Brian's first comment about Facebook being so easy because you could add your 7 closest friends really easily. Slack is kind of added the same way, where you make a channel and then it says who are the 7 emails of people you want to communicate with, which makes it great.
Yep. Yeah. It's
I've never it's more knit than an email chain. I've never started an email chain and then it says you want to add 7 more people to this email chain. Like, just didn't exist.
People hate emails. Yeah, for sure. There's one more point I wanted to talk about. Oh yeah. Do you guys know the other most important value curve is Slack? Do you guys ever send gifts in Slack?
Sometimes. There's been a lot of Corona gifts going back and forth.
Integrations. I can't think of another messaging platform. I mean, I guess there's other ones, but the integrations and the ability to have certain notifications coming from, say you get a Stripe payment, say you update something in your product roadmap, and maybe they didn't focus on this starting out, but this is something that is also like no other, messaging platform is doing. So they've actually become almost like so they've created this blue ocean of, all these other things, but almost like a notification center as well as like a communication center. And it's incredible. That's, I think, one of their biggest like differentiators as well.
I completely agree with that. We have deployment for product going live, integrations. Whenever someone messages us on Intercom, we get someone. Whenever someone signs up, we get someone. And so it really is the hub for every single other messaging platform.
Yeah. You guys have any questions or comments on that?
Oh, this is great.
Yeah.
I have a comment.
Yeah, Jody.
So I think that for me and my purposes with my clubs and organizations, we used to use GroupMe a lot, but I've seen like it's kind of outdated, and Slack is kind of the new way that that our clubs are communicating with each other, and it's really cool to see.
What do you like so much about it?
Yeah, I like everything we've been saying, like the ability to just create groups easily without like the hassle of like searching for people, and it just like feels more like not outdated anymore. It feels like it's current and it's like fresh and it's a new system that we haven't seen before.
Yeah. It's they definitely know what they're doing with their strategy. Smart guys. I also like how they limit your interactions with it, and they encourage not to get distracted by it.
And you can have really big groups too, which is like you can't do that with like a text message or anything else. So
yeah, they've even like community ability, right?
Yeah.
Oh, guys, hey, we have so Sway Metrics has our own digital marketer group as well on Slack. So it's a great way to engage with your community, engage with users, and like that's something that is just part of the easiest onboarding and creating groups that kind of helped with that as well. So I'd say that's another one. So these are kind of their value curves. I don't know I haven't thought about where they decreased some of their value, and like maybe secure messages, maybe make everything super secure. They kind of forgot about. They're like, whatever. But
it's not super secure.
Exactly. So they probably thought like, hey, let's get security, encryption, all that stuff. Forget about it, dude. Maybe with enterprise they can do that, but that's when they kind of already got in their blue ocean. Cool. So just moving on, I built this dope surfboard rocket.
You gonna ride that?
Yeah. Yeah. No, so yeah. So going back, people think like, oh, I need something revolutionary to kind of create this blue ocean. It's like, no, break down your strategy into different value points and focus on your value curve, on where you can increase and decrease to really get into those new blue oceans that you can create. And that's what I really want people to take away from this. It's not so much like, oh, something revolutionary, but look at your current values, look at your current strategies, and adjust. Where can I increase? Where can I decrease? Where can I focus this on a new demographic?
Yeah, I think like Jake, I learned a lot on kind of like really harshly looking at our own stuff. We got to make our own product like way easier, make the onboarding experience super simple. Don't worry about payments right away. Don't worry about anything that causes friction right away. I think we got to get people to like either be sending campaigns or finding the leads that they want like instantly within minutes or even like a minute or two, right? Like I think just kind of going through all of your examples, if I take a harsh look at it kind of stuff that we're doing, we need to build that onboarding experience so it's super quick and they get value right out of it like instantly.
Yeah, I doubt anyone else in your space is doing that. Yeah. Like your space is very secure, very like, hey, all these paywalls, and there's a reason for that, right? Like there's a reason why people want to do that. But yeah, I would just look over your strategy, talk about it, lay it out, right? Lay out which different values you're focusing on. Like, all right, well, we do like the most intense database. Maybe like bring that down so it's not like you guys aren't wasting a lot of energy on that. And think about usability, right? And that's what we're doing. But on that note, right? Like Brian, if you successfully do that, you're gonna have all the waves to yourself, man.
Nice. I want the waves. I want all the monies.
Give me all the customer waves. Yeah.
All the monies.
So yeah.
No, I think our core value is that if I really look at kind of like what's going on in the market, like I was going to start a data company 5 years ago. And if I wanted to look at the core values, price is one of the main core values. And it's a weird core value, but there's a company called Clearbit, awesome data, awesome products. I went to go buy it for one of my clients like 2 years ago, doing some like growth hacking campaigns for them. They have great data. They were good. They were so good early on, and they had raised like $3 million that are like, I can't compete with that, right? And this was 5 years ago. But now the minimum contract size is $25,000, $26,000. So if I want to just kind of like get in and kind of try it, this is one of those scenarios where if they would have stayed down market, like they would just eat up all the competition. It would be like Amazon, right? But because they decided to go up market, and because they're trying to go after like ZoomInfo and Discover.org and eat their market and they're doing like $300-400 million a year. ZoomInfo and Discover, they just recently combined. Essentially, they left this wide open space at the bottom of the market. And while like $50 a month, $30 a month, $100 a month. Like there's not really many good solutions out there that are the quality of a Clearbit, but also at the price point where somebody can come in and try.
Mm-hmm.
So the only way for like people to get the ability to use a Clearbit, to use a Zoom Info, discover.org, $20,000 a year, $30,000 a year entry point.
Mm-hmm.
So there's all these other small businesses, especially like with the COVID stuff going on right now. Every single small business out there is going to need like leads. They're going to need like a way to like get back and try new channels of growth. And if you're telling somebody that, oh yeah, you can use this channel of growth, but your test is going to be 30 grand. I'm like, that's like a full-time employee's entire salary in some places in the country. It doesn't even make any sense. Right. So like, I think that, you know, that's, you can go up market, but you leave a lot of people behind. So if you take the Amazon approach, where you're just going to be at high quality, at consumable prices for the entire industry, you're just going to gather like all of these individuals that will be able to use your product and want your product and don't get priced out.
Yeah. That's I would research it more, but yeah, that's, you kind of hit it. Like, all right, there's this opening. Also, like people who create blue oceans, you know, they kind of drift back into red oceans when they want to take it back over.
Yeah.
So like, but yeah, you guys could crush it with like content with like, where are the leads or something cool.
Yeah.
You know, like I need my leads, like just something funny. I don't know if any of the marketers that are just like, cause that's a tough thing. Not many people are focusing on like, where are my leads? I need my leads, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's also, I think that's out there. I'll be a little bit promoting a little bit, but I think it does exist, and it does exist in the fact of the enormous amount of kind of offshore messages that you get on LinkedIn for leads. So it's kind of a little bit of a dirty business, and trying to like clean it up so it's not like scammy and spammy.
Yeah, you guys should do that. Like turn the lead business into like a relationship building business, right? Like,
yeah,
you guys could try that approach, I think, because everyone thinks like lead building and like mass sending is like how do you not be spammy with that? I want to know, like, how do you not be spammy with that? And that's
there are people
out
out there doing videos like that on LinkedIn where they are lead companies and they say, but it's not about the data. It's about building a very personalized relationship. Here's a video every single day on how to build personal relationships, but that's not what I sell. I just sell you the leads.
Maybe you could just partner with those guys and they could sell your tool.
I'd rather compete.
Well, we kind of are partnered with them, and they're really interesting as well because maybe we'll talk about it and release that later. But they're also a price point that starts at $20K.
Gotcha. Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. Cool. I just want to, I guess, I think that's it for the presentation. I just wanted to make sure if anyone had any questions or anything like in the chat from anyone. I can't see the chat. But with webinars, I always feel like I want to say something when I'm listening to people. And I think, you know, you may have this burning question or burning situation that maybe we could help with. But anything in the chat, or is everyone pretty happy?
There's no burning questions in the chat right now. I think everyone's pretty happy.
I'm happy.
Cool. Awesome.
I'm happy. I'm going to go apply this to our onboarding.
Yeah. If anyone has any questions, just reach out to me, jake@swaymetrics.com. But yeah,
send over the slides and we'll post them as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
It took me, 12 hours to put these slides together. So I want you guys.
Seriously? Damn, dude.
Well, I've been screenshotting them the whole time. So we've already got them. It's okay.
Yeah. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed. What'd you guys think?
It was great. Well, to be honest, I'm a little bit in pain because like because there's some things that I've kind of been ignoring and thinking about our own product that you've shined a light on, but sunlight kills all bacteria, and got to shine a light on that stuff, right? And we have to do something about it. Like, it's so obviously glaring. Like, having this conversation is like, here's 3 things that we have to do that we're like, maybe we should, make it a little bit harder to come in and join and use the product, or throw this in the way for people just in case. And no, we have to reduce all friction at all costs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's tough because I think the whole point of this thing is to really analyze your strategies and your values. I think a lot of people like that. I think that's the whole point of Blue Ocean strategy is like, all right, we're providing 5 things, data, like lead aggregation, blah, blah, blah. This is one aspect of the product. And then analyzing like, all right, like this is really hard to do and really hard to beat with the competition. Let's just kind of like get rid of that. Is that really necessary for our consumers? Like having the best data? I mean, yeah, it is, but like how many people are going to complain versus like, oh, this is so easy to use. These are just examples. I don't know your product or industry.
Yeah. I think it's like carving off a little piece of your own piece of the world too, right? So like, what sets you apart, and can you pull an audience from somewhere else to your audience? Yeah,
exactly. And I'm testing this strategy as well with my company. I kind of explained it a little bit, so happy to give you guys an update to see if it works.
Sure. I also heard you're reading a book every single week on all these strategies. So
yeah, so I'm reading 25. I've read 25 books this last quarter. I barely finished it. I was reading. That's why I read The 1 Minute Manager and Richest Man in Babylon the past 3 days.
Because they're super short.
They're super short, really easy to read. I read Richest Man in Babylon last night. Finished at like 10. I was like, all right, cool. I can check off 25 books.
I would be really interested to hear after you read 52 books this year, or it sounds like you're on track for 100 more.
100 books this year.
Nice. I'm interested how like something like Blue Ocean relates to all of the other strategies out there.
Yeah.
And kind of like what you think the best strategies are to learn. Because you don't need to learn all of these. You just need to learn a couple few that you double down on.
Yeah. I mean, the best marketing books I would say like I've read so far, I can pull up my my list real quick. Let's see. Best marketing wise, like if you guys have read the 1-page marketing plan, it's pretty good. Trying to think of anything else. Category creation is pretty, I think, this kind of relates a little bit, right? But category creation is just your mindset of a new Blue Ocean, right? Oh wait, you guys can't see my screen. I forgot I only shared Keynote, but category creation, and resume share. Let me see if I can share.
What exactly is category creation? Is that just similar to Blue Ocean, creating a new category in the market in which
Exactly. So it's by the Gainsight founder. So it's a book, kind of like a marketing book that he was just selling. But he created the customer success category. There's nothing focusing on customer success and people doing that. So he saw all these things, this new job coming out that was like customer success, and that's kind of getting popular. But now let's focus on customer success, right? So like the person actually doing the job and how to make their job better, right? So our whole category creation is marketer success. No one's really focusing on marketers, being successful in regards to an organization or a client. They're just like, yeah, there's tools that help them like better analyze, better do this, but there's nothing in regards to helping them showcase their value, and showcase making people better communicate and understand that marketer as a person, what they're contributing. So that's kind of why we're going with that. But yeah, I'd say 1-page marketing plan and category creation is okay. That's about it.
It's okay. You'd rather read Blue Ocean than category creation?
No, Blue Ocean is actually Blue Ocean wasn't that good.
Gotcha. So read category creation.
I think the first 50 to 75 pages of Blue Ocean strategy is good, because it talks about what I ran you guys through, like understanding your values, getting rid of some, adding to some. But like it feels like the last 100 pages, it talks about the New York Police Department. And I'm like, all right.
Cool case study, but is it applicable?
Yeah, it's kind of, they actually had a really cool transformation in the 90s, the New York Police Department. Like New York was one of the most dangerous cities in America, and now it went from that to being one of the safest.
We're almost at time, so I don't want to tangent, but is that because of the police department, or is that because of the Freakonomics abortion becoming legal type thing?
I don't mind going over a little bit. I know you guys probably have things, but yeah. So really, this new guy joined, and he kind of developed all these new strategies for managing people. So in Blue Ocean, like the other half of the book, why I didn't like it, it talks about more management and invoking these Blue Ocean strategies if you're like within a company or something. So it kind of like is less top level and more like within an organization. That's why I didn't like it as much. But yeah, this new guy came on and completely changed how people worked, how people interacted, how you managed people, how you had accountability between departments. It's a pretty cool story.
Gotcha. I'll have to check it out. Jake, thank you so much for your presentation today. Thanks for leaving this crowd with a list of 26 books that they should read
25.
to get up to speed. 25? Oh, there's a header line, of course. Yeah, look forward to having you continue to be conversational on the show. And if you ever want to present again on what you learn next, happy to have you do that too.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Thank you, Jake. Thanks, Ross.
All right.
See everybody
Thanks.
else later.